Let's get you ahead of the summer season, from lakes to pools and the beach. We'll look at what you need to know to stay safe. Plus, our Verify team is looking into some viral claims around your pool and sunscreen, what they found straight ahead. And if you're looking to grill out, there's some things you need to watch out for both your safety and your wallet. It's all coming up as we get you ahead of the summer season. Hi there, I'm Jane Monreal. The summer is a great time to spend with friends and family while eating great food and exploring the great outdoors. But there's some important reminders as the temps begin to climb. Many look to head out or the water during the warm summer months. But if it's your first time, it can bring extra dangers. Officials say don't drink on the water, learn CPR, have a designated water watcher. And swimmers should wear life jackets, no matter how confident they are in their skills.
The basics are, just like when you're driving a car, you need to pay attention to what you're doing. Instead of paying attention to the road, we're going to pay attention to the water out here. About 1 in 4 of every boating incident that we work on the lakes or the waterways is due to operator inattention or inability to maintain a proper lookout. We recommend that when the boat's underway that everybody wear their life jackets. Even if you're a professional swimmer, because if you are involved in a boating incident and something happens to where you're incapacitated and you can't move, your ability to swim is not going to do you any good.
Lakes are not the only place that can be a danger. So can pools, especially for your pets and other animals. Our Megan Bragg is here to verify some viral DIY hacks to make sure your pool is safe for you and your furry friends.
With the weather warming up in the Carolinas, more people will probably be getting their pools ready for swimming and lounging. But it's also important to protect your furry family members as they start to venture out near the pool. A viral photo circulating around Facebook and Reddit shows a simple doormat could actually help save the lives of your pet and wildlife if they fall into the pool. But does this trick actually work? Let's verify.
To get answers, we went to Jenna Arsenault with Catawba County Animal Services and the Humane Society of the United States. In the photo, someone has attached a rubber doormat to the edge of the pool. The post claims an animal who has fallen in an unsupervised pool can use it to climb out. Arsenault says this method does work and she's seen some success with it, but also notes there are better alternatives that are also cost effective.
And something like the doormat method, which we have seen some individuals use before, can be successful for smaller mammals and reptiles that may accidentally make their way into a pool that they may not, or shouldn't be in.
Arsenault says for smaller wildlife animals like squirrels and frogs, this method is perfect. But for medium and larger breed dogs, the doormat would likely not be able to support the weight of the animal.
You would want to use something that's a little bit sturdier to support their body weight.
She says there are some pretty cheap pool ramps on Amazon, but you could also DIY something similar.
There's actually some really good resources too on websites like Pinterest with some DIY home solutions that can be done with PVC pipe and pool noodles.
According to the Humane Society of the United States, backyard swimming pools can be deadly for wildlife. The Humane Society says there are some simple pool precautions homeowners can use to help dramatically lower the danger to animals, like installing one or more water exit devices or placing a knotted nylon rope along the side, securing them to the pool edge. So we can verify that, yes, a simple rubber doormat attached to the edge of a pool could save the life of a smaller pet or wildlife. But for larger breed animals, a pool ramp is advised. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
Well, if you're planning to take a trip out to the Carolina coast this summer, rip currents are one of the biggest things you'll have to worry about. So is the water temperature and the rising sea level. Meteorologist Brittany Van Voorhees explains why.
Ocean waters across the world are still warming at an alarming rate. Data taken just this week in the main development region of the Atlantic Basin, meaning where most of our storms form, showed the ocean heat content is measuring numbers more typical of August 10th. With temperatures warming globally, oceans never got a chance to properly cool down this past winter. And when water warms, it expands. Brian McNulty, a senior research associate at the University of Miami, explains that this warming worsens sea level rise when combined with melting ice on land.
In this example, you could say, okay, well, now because sea levels have risen by a foot, things that flooded by a foot, which is kind of a big deal. Like, you know, if you have a foot of ocean water in your house, that's far worse than having none. Even though it's not a big number, but it's a very big difference.
Now, the numbers may seem small, but they can make a big impact, and you can too. McNulty says we all can play a part in slowing down sea level rise, since oceans are a large sponge and store a huge portion of our greenhouse gas emissions.
Well, as the temperature heats up this summer, it is important to make sure you stay safe from heat illnesses. Shelley Garzon is in Columbia with more on the rising risks.
It's pretty ferocious in August.
I try to just stay hydrated.
It's been a little brutal, but we're pushing through.
Steve Shelton, an ER physician, says there are many risks when it comes to heat.
If you can avoid the heat, do so. So that may mean moving activities to earlier in the morning or later in the evening. You also need to prepare for the heat. First is hydration. Make sure that you hydrate well, and we recommend non-caffeinated, non-alcoholic beverages to hydrate.
According to Dr. Shelton, it's not uncommon for people to experience dehydration, heat exhaustion, or heat stroke during the warmer months of the year.
As you progress into some of the heat injuries, specifically heat exhaustion, individuals will start to feel very sweaty and clammy. They may feel nauseated. They may feel dizzy, and all those are early indications of a heat injury. So they need to make sure they find some cool area to cool off and begin to hydrate.
For most people, they go home to cool off. But under South Carolina law, it's not a requirement for landlords to provide cooling services to their tenants.
There are 4 essential services that landlords have to make available to tenants in South Carolina. Those are heat, running water, hot water, and electricity.
Emily Blackshire-Gill is a housing justice attorney with South Carolina Appleseed. She says under South Carolina law, air conditioning is considered an appliance.
If a landlord makes air conditioning available to a tenant upon moving in the same way they'd make available a stove or a microwave, they are responsible. The landlord is responsible for the upkeep of that appliance unless it's otherwise written in the lease.
If your air conditioning stops working and you're renting, you do have certain rights when it comes to your landlord repairing it.
They have to write what's called a 14-day letter. A 14-day letter is basically like a legal notice to the landlord that something is broken and you expect them to fix it or make reasonable efforts to fix it within 14 days.
Well, summer is coming in hot this year, and there's a new tool to keep us weather aware against dangerous heat. Meteorologist KJ Jacobs walks us through how it works.
It's called Heat Risk, an experimental 7-day forecast tool that uses a color numeric index. Here's how it works. A category is assigned to the risk factors for heat-related impacts. Look at this map. You can see most of the country is covered in light green. Little to no risk from heat is expected. Then we have some yellow, and also across the Mid-Atlantic as well as the Carolinas, we have orange and yellow. When it comes to yellow, it's category 1. The impact is considered minor. At category 1, heat affects primarily those individuals extremely sensitive to heat, especially when outdoors without the proper cooling or hydration. Then we have the colors orange and red. That's categories 2 and 3, followed by extreme. This is magenta. This level will be rare. It's one of those long duration heating events with little relief or cooling at night. The heat risk forecast will take into consideration duration of heat for day and nighttime temperatures, how unusual the event is for the time of year, if temperatures pose an elevated risk based on CDC data. This new tool is like products we already use to make you weather aware of severe weather events. The bottom line, this is a new way to help you make decisions ahead of those outdoor plans.
Well, some of you may be firing up the grill for the first time, and experts are once again warning of the dangers of cooking with fire. Our Kaylin Hagwood spoke with fire safety leaders with tips to stay safe.
Memorial Day kicks off the unofficial start of summer, which means more people will be firing up the grill. While a common task, the National Fire Protection Association says many have found themselves in a dangerous position, with more than 11,000 grill, hibachi, or barbecue-related home fires reported on average annually between 2017 and 2021. Gas grills were involved in an average of roughly 9,000 home fires, with leaks or breaks a primary problem. It's why the association says you should check the gas tank for issues before you use it and keep your grill clean by removing grease or fat buildup. Also,
making sure you sort of have a clear zone around the grill. You don't want it right up against the house. You don't want it under a roof line. You certainly don't want it inside. Sorry if it's raining, but please don't put it in your garage. That's really, really dangerous, both for fire and for carbon monoxide, the fumes that come off of that.
Charcoal or other solid fuel grills have been the cause of hundreds of structure and outside fires. One tip the association recommends is never adding charcoal fluid or other flammable liquids to a flame. And keep these liquids and other heat sources away from kids, as children under 5 account for thousands of burns each year.
Keep kids and pets away from those grills and those hot things because they move quickly.
This season, they're sending the message to grill safely. They hope you'll check out the latest safety information for your grill before you fire it up. Kaylin Hagwood, WCNC Charlotte.
And if you are looking to cook out this summer, experts with Consumer Affairs say it will likely cost you more than it did last year. They predict people will have to spend about 10% more this year than last year. Relish is up 50% since last Memorial Day. Hamburger patties up about 14%. And beef hot dogs, they're about the same price as last year. Many of you are looking for your sunscreen this time of year, but some social media influencers are claiming it causes more harm than protection to your skin. So, does sunscreen cause cancer? Kia Murray verifies.
Well, we're giving you the answer right off the top this time. They are wrong. According to the Wall Street Journal, wellness trendsetters claim that you can skip the sunscreen thanks to the sun's natural healing powers. You might need to keep an extra eye on the kids and teens social media accounts to avoid this trend. It's why we caught up with doctors at Atrium Health to help us debunk this myth. Check it out.
So sunscreen is definitely helpful, but it doesn't help if you get more sun exposure. So you can negate the effects by increasing the amount of time you spend in the sun.
Now, what could be fueling this skepticism is a recent recall of some spray sunscreens. Johnson & Johnson actually had to recall some Neutrogena sprays over the cancer-causing chemical benzene. This happened a few years ago. As you and maybe your kids get ready for the summer, we've got some stats that you might want to keep in mind. First, the American Association for Cancer Research, well, they tell us that more than 5 million people receive a cancer diagnosis, every single year. And while melanoma only makes up for about 2% of cases, it does account for the most skin cancer deaths. It's why doctors at Atrium Health say you can prevent skin cancer and protect yourself from the sun with hats and sunscreen. I'm Kia Murray, WCNC Charlotte.
At the airport, airlines forecast record summer travel. They're expecting to transport 271 million passengers this summer. That's up more than 6% from last year. American Airlines says it is boosting flights by 10% this summer. AAA backing those claims, projecting more than 43 million people will travel over the Memorial Day holiday alone. Charlotte Douglas officials giving some helpful advice for those flying.
We ask that you arrive at least 2 hours before your domestic flight and at least 3 hours before your international flights. Once you're inside the building, it's important to remember that any checkpoint can get you to any gate, so you don't have to go to a specific checkpoint. They all will lead to the same place.
So a reminder, pack your patience, pack your sunscreen, and pack your water this summer. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jane Monreal. Have a great summer.